Ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, welcome. We appreciate you coming on a rainy afternoon with all sorts of measures in place, but we really appreciate you coming, and it's a full house today, as you can see, with a waiting list, all interested in the conversation that we'll be having as a group today with Professor Thongchai Winichakul. He requires no introduction, but we will be providing him with one. But first I just want to say on behalf of the Mainland Southeast Asian Studies Group of Asia Research Institute, I'm Maitriang Thwin, co-convener with Dr. Tituma. And we have came across this idea to start this talk series as a way of looking beyond just the scholarship that's been produced within the field, but to get to the stories, the personal stories of the scholars and the institutions and the context in which much of this scholarship that we all have access to, have a connection to that context. And this series was an attempt to start off this type of series of conversations with scholars in the field. And the idea of pillars of the field was twofold. One, to suggest that scholars and eminent figures like Professor Thongchai are themselves pillars, but it was also the ideas that they offered, as well as their own service to the field, also served to create a very important foundation for fields like Southeast Asian Studies and the various disciplines that were affiliated to it. And so this was the idea, and this comes on the trail of other sorts of projects that some of you may be already familiar with. Nick Tarling had a book called Historians and Their Disciplines, which is a really wonderful series of biographies, similar to what hopefully this conversation will be. Our colleague Go Bing Long also had a project with Department of Southeast Asian Studies that did similar things. And David Stanson's book on the politics of knowledge and looking at area studies also had semi-biographical surveys of the field. And so it's in this spirit that we might try to continue on these types of discussions, but also thinking about where we are in this broader story of knowledge production. As you all know, Thongchai, the scholar, is very well known to us through his role both as a professor of Asian Studies and History from the University of Wisconsin. He's an Emeritus Professor. He has also led the field beyond Southeast Asia and Thai Studies as president of the Association of Asian Studies. He was inducted into the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He's a Guggenheim Award recipient, and his book, of course, that many of you all have read was a Benda Prize winner. He has served on a number of editorial boards for journals that are crucial to our field, like Modern Asian Studies, Southeast Asia Research, and he's published in many journals, including our own Journal of Southeast Asian Studies, Journal of Asian Studies, and so forth. And so what we see is, this is the face and person that many of us know, but for those in Thai scholars and Thai studies would also know that there are other faces and images of Thongchai and roles that he still also plays. Of course, there's the story of him in his formation as a student activist, and perhaps these are some of the ideas we might be talking about today. And also, perhaps more recently, his also role as a public intellectual, his continuing interest in being a figure within Thai discussions. And what's important to know was while his English language scholarship is obviously well known to us, not many of us perhaps know that he's also written 7 other books in Thai and a number of articles. And so this sort of duality of being a part of an English language scholarly community as well as a Thai scholarly community is one that is interesting for many scholars in the field. And so perhaps we might even start off from that point. And I just want to say that I will probably have a conversation for about 30 minutes or so to 40 minutes, and then we'll leave the rest of the conversation up to you. And we'd encourage you all to use the mics and participate in this as well. But as I suggested, there are many sides in the sense of your career and your role as a person. And I was wondering, I mean, do you find yourself adjusting, to the different audiences and to the different contexts in which you are operating as a scholar or as a public intellectual? Do you see yourself, in a sense, thinking and speaking differently in a place like Ari or in Wisconsin, or as you might when you are in Chiang Mai or Bangkok?
Maybe it's a natural adjustment. My English is still not quite English. And in conversation, it's easier to communicate. In writing, the editors know that my English is not proper English. So, like my advisor used to say that I can write English in such a way because I'm not a native speaker. So it's a kind of unique, I don't know how unique, but he said it's kind. Then one day, this many years ago, I asked my editor at Hawaii Press, is it true? She said, yes. So at 20-something years ago, when she helped me edit the book, she said that she took the task by herself because the first editor she asked kind of headache how to edit my English. So then she managed to create a kind of system that she detect a frequent, strange, I mean, even grammatically correct, but it's not the way that you write in English. So she asked me the question, and you think about 20-something years ago, there's no email, right? It's all posted. This kind of question. That's how. So to answer this, because naturally I adjust. Not adjust to become a kind of fluent native speaker or writer, no, but I adjust to the audience. When you ask, I don't know what I need to adjust, but I do. Not just politically. To some extent, politically is Thai. If you know some about my background, I always kind of critical to the monarchy, critical to the code word always come out automatically. Or I would say part of it is a thinking. I'm thinking about the monarchy not as much as the person. I always see the person as this is a kind of bragging, this event anyway. Before Duncan McCargo talking about network monarchy, I often think about the monarchy as a person within a broader, I didn't use the word network, but broader thing anyway. So many times when I talk about the monarchy, I talk about in plural, automatically, not because I want to avoid trouble. It's a way to think. Or I talk about it as not as one person. So that's how in Thai, I can avoid trouble. Not always, no, but let's say it's easier. Easier because that's the way I think, that's the way I adjust. In English, I found that even though it's not native speak, it's not my mother tongue. Nowadays, I'm not sure when it started. I have no idea. I express my ideas better. In Thai, it's so clumsy. It's so hard. I find many words in English easier to quick coming out and somebody told me the change must be the time when I start dreaming in English. Then I don't know when I start dreaming in English because now I'm still dreaming bilingually.
Perhaps we can take you back before you started dreaming in English, back to your sort of formative years. You were a student at Thammasat, and you were involved in activism and so forth. What drew you to this? What was the feelings of the time that sort of drew you into this sense of political action?
I was an activist, the kind of activist that don't read books. Yeah, I don't read books. If I have any kind of fortunate background is that I believe I'm a kind of good student. I did good in my grade school before turning activist. After that, since then I stopped reading. Don't ask me anything about math because my math is ended at 10th grade.
So were you always drawn to history or to geography?
No,
I mean,
no.
What did you like?
I think like most people, we hate history. Not just Thai. I believe that most people in the world, we hate history because history is boring. But history is kind of weird subject that we all hate history, but whenever there is a national controversy, everybody claims to know history very good. I was activist. I didn't read much books. Full-time activist. I didn't go to class. I may be lucky. Again, maybe good background of learning. I always got a good tutor, and I learned fast. I can get to university. I can get grades. But actually, I didn't pay much attention to reading. But I think I just may be lucky. Just conceptualize, understand things quickly. Only when I was in prison for 2 years. Even in prison, I didn't read much because you're not allowed to read much. You're allowed to bring things in, such as 6 months after in prison, you start having Donald Duck. Yeah, you can have cartoons. You have cartoons for a while, then you can have kind of more serious stuff, such as novels. And history stuff is always safe. So yes, I first in touch with history more because that's a book they allow. Otherwise, I mean, political books, no way. But at the time, history is not fun. I read more novels than history. But when I released from prison, that's the time that nothing else to do because one of the things they expect, they mean the state, they released on, I mean, in my case, our case got amnesty, a law passed to absolve all kind of wrongdoing by whoever. They said that they absolved wrongdoing by us, but in fact, they already absolved wrongdoing by authorities. Everybody are free. But let's say on the condition of release, this is informal. We hope that they told us, you go back to school. At the time, if you know Thai history, lots of friends went to jungle. They told us, don't go to jungles because there are conflict within the authorities. We don't know for sure, but we can guess who support the amnesty, who didn't support the amnesty. To show to those who didn't support the amnesty that we have to perform that we are really not communist. So to show that we are not communists, don't go to jungles, because if we go to jungle, we hurt everybody in our group. So what else to do? Reading books. Yeah, that's the time when I start reading books. And I think, again, unfortunately, reading books after spending years in activism and 2 years in jail, I found out that in my class, in history class, undergrad, I'm more mature. I did pretty good grades because it's easy to think, easy to compose, easy to, organize my thought. So in a way, if I was not arrested and studied through 4 years, maybe I got bad grades. So lucky that I returned to school after 2 years in prison. I don't know why, but let's say it looked like every class seems easier. Then I finished with good grades in history. Then not because I thought a lot about history, but because I didn't think much about it. So as a registered history student before going to prison, so I can have lots of friends to help. Coming out, I didn't think much, so I continued to history, get good grades, then starting finding jobs. While finding jobs, I was encouraged to apply to study more. At the time, again, I can try to find a job, but let's say a good option. Then it turned out I was rejected by everywhere I applied to the U.S., by the way.
So you decided to apply to go to graduate school.
Yeah. Everywhere I applied to the U.S., I was rejected.
And you ended up in Sydney.
Because they offer scholarship to me. No other reason.
What sort of program did you enroll in Sydney, and who were some of your
History.
professors? Oh, it was also
History.
in history. Were there particular professors that you enjoyed? Were there those that you didn't enjoy?
At the
Presumably they're not
time-
here in the audience.
At the time, I'm not sure even now, but now it should be better. I think I was similar to other undergrad students. I don't know much. My horizon is limited. I apply to the places where many of you know John Simon, good supporter. I owe him a lot. Whatever John Simon told me to apply, I did, because I have no idea what the difference between those places. I may have heard the name Ben Anderson because he wrote things, right? But I didn't read it in English. It's too
A
difficult.
few things, right?
Yeah, it's too difficult. But anyway, I applied to Cornell. I was rejected because my TOEFL score is too low. I rejected everywhere. Australia is the only place where they offer the chance to, even I failed the first exam. They offer the chance to do again. And in Australia, I was told, John Simon asked me to apply a number of places for different reasons. To Berkeley, not because he knows people, but not to particular people. To Cornell, because the program, there are people and it's a program which is great. To Sydney, because he asked, because he knows that Craig Reynolds there. So you see, it's different reasons.
Do you remember a favorite book or a favorite article, an idea that came during this formative period that was particularly inspiring to you to make you want to go on for a PhD?
For PhD, I have to say that no, because I didn't think much. Go along, especially out of prison, right? Out of prison, then I just have in my mind, I don't want to do business. At the time, still anti-capitalism. Just almost like, not automatic, but let's say options are limited, options that I like. I already work as a research assistant to a professor at Thammasat, and then apply is kind of waiting. I already applied for a job as a proofreader in a publisher. I got a job, start working for a month before I know that I have a chance to get scholarship on the condition I pass English exam, which I failed. So I quit that job and to study English, prepare to go abroad. So any book in particular at that time, no.
Interesting.
No, I don't have really particular book that let's say I did well in history class. That time I read more, but let's say any particular book that I am impressed, not quite. There's one book in the first year before getting to prison, before October 6th massacre, that I did pretty well, that prompted me to register as a history student. Partly because there are friends who study there. I don't have to go to class. I can borrow their lectures. But partly because that book is Jit Pumisak, the real face of Thai feudal. I did finish that book. Not exactly because I'm a good student, because he was a Marxist. And it's a book that most radical students know. So at least I finished that book. not because of the class, but once the class assigned that book as one of the main reading, it's easier to me to answer that question, without having to go to class. So again, fortunate. But in in grad school, that's the time when I read a lot. I have to say, even now, I still read English not quite. I know that how fast many of you can read English. because I have my colleagues at Wisconsin. I know how fast they can read. Oh, I can't do that even now. But at first, it's the kind of not so confident I can do the job. But over time, I think I'm more confident. I know there are many ways to do reading. I, I, I believe even now I read few numbers of books than my colleagues. Any conversation that involve, have you read this, have you read that, I avoid it. Because I didn't read a lot. But I believe I take different approach. I take a lot out of each reading. That's my approach. That's the only way to survive in that kind of environment where, think about historians who native speakers, they read English fast. I can read Thai fast. I kind of know how people scan the eyes. I know that they read English fast. I can do that in Thai, I can do English. So in grad school, that's the time that I read a lot. I have to say that in the end, what inspired me are two groups of books. This is not true for why I studied history, but at that time I studied history already. Because I went to grad school when disillusionment with the Communist Party, with the radical socialism, whatever, began to become widespread in the Thai text. So that prompted me to study a lot, to read a lot, Western Marxism, and to some point connect to Frankfurt School, then connect to lit crit, those structuralism, post-structuralism area. This is one branch that I read a lot apart from my dissertation. I divided time easily, half a day for whatever I like to read, half a day did my dissertation. And there was a 5-month period that I almost break up. I mean, I fed up with my dissertation. I didn't do anything with my dissertation. I finished, the whole time with reading something else. That's fun. The other group that inspired me a lot, people may not know, and this give credit to Craig, to my advisor. He knows that I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm fed up with kind of history.
Could you share with your audience who your advisor was?
Craig Reynolds, Thai specialist, Thai historian. He kind of, by that time he knows that I'm interested in things beyond dissertation. At least part of my time I want that way. For Marxism, the part that I was influenced, or let's say a kind of gateway to help me a lot to understand, is Perry Anderson, Western Marxism, which by now may be outdated, I don't know. The other one, which people may not know, but for me is a great book. Great book, partly maybe, when you read books, some books influential more, some books influential less. Some classic book doesn't matter to you because it's interactive process, not just a book, it's you too. It's whoever you are, having kind of matching right time. I learned a lot from Martin J. Dialectical Imagination, Frankfurt School. Those two books are kind of basis that can branch out to others. The other side that I gave credit to Craig is that when he knows that I'm kind of fed up, don't want to do dissertation, he urged me to go to, in Sydney, I registered as Sydney University student, but I lived near the University of New South Wales. At New South Wales, there's a French historian teaching about Annales School. That's it. I read a lot of Annales School in English, not in French. I would say that the other day, there's a few people in Bangkok, we just talk about art and my book. Western Marxism, lit crit, post-structuralism give me novel ideas I never thought of, fun to think. Annales School inspire me to imagine. Imagine a lot. Try to do something weird, and that's the way I learn about connection between history and art and other things. I'm not an artist, but wow, I just learned this is what art do. Because there are many Annales School historians wrote like an artist.
Your book, Siam Mapped, of course, is very important for the field and won the Harry Benda Prize. In another interview that was, I think, conducted in 2016 with, I think, with the Bangkok Post, or maybe it was some other, I'm not sure actually what the citation was, but you mentioned that the book actually was a response to your experiences on October 6, 1976. I was wondering, that's very unusual because most people might think of this as a history of geography, of maps, of Thai identity, and so forth. I was wondering if you could share with us how that event and your participation in it affected how you wrote and how you thought about writing.
It was in my mind the whole process that I want to do something for my friends who died. This never come out. It never, I mean, escaped my mind it all the time. By the time I applied to study, I want to study formation of state, mode of production, blah, 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 blah. A few months later, everything turns disillusion. That's out. I learned through the process that I mentioned a moment ago. Then it came out, I don't know when, how, I don't know. I just know that the interaction between those things, learn more about from Western Marxism, critical theory, to post-structuralism. On the other hand, learn about another school, to think differently, to think otherwise, learn about those art, to try to take adventure. I want to write. You can tell me I'm over ambitious, and when I was too young, I mean, of course, I didn't expect that I can do it, but it's an intention. Whether or not I can do it, it doesn't matter. I want to write a new Thai history. Full stop. I mean, nothing less than that. That's in my mind not from the start, but from the kind of disillusion. I don't want the answer that which strategy, which tactics to finish the revolution. I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. It's Marxist, it's whatever. I don't care. I just want to write a new history because, in my mind, history responsible for the massacre. History responsible for the death. Not only history, but history play an important part, responsible for the death, for the killing. So history hurts people, history is murderers. So I want to write a history, and I want to write history in a way that, partly because of influence I mentioned, playful. It should be powerful. That's my intention. Whether or not I succeed, I don't know. Earlier you asked, I think about the audience. Normally when I write, I don't think about the audience. This is contrary to most advice, right? I don't think about the audience because I think too much. It kind of burden to you how to write. I just want to write what I want to write. And whoever the audience, just byproduct of it. I just want to write a history that is so convincing, but is not powerful enough. It's hard to believe. Convincing, but hard to believe. So people would read it, would listen to it, but stop short or maybe kind of have a distance that, no, it is too much to believe. And I think over the time, I think that's the purpose of history. Just make people think. That's all. To generate brain cells, that's all. No other purpose. It should not serve. One thing that I developed over time, this is now school. Thanks to Brodell, thanks to many other people. I have this in mind, not theoretical at all, but let's say simple. Good history must be strange. Good history should be useless. Useless in the sense of common word, maybe it's translated from Thai, cannot be used for political purposes, for whatever as ideology. It should have something, again, convincing, but at the same time, it's hard to believe, or let's say awkward, or something that people don't subscribe to it. history is too powerful. History is too powerful.
You moved on from Sydney to the university back to Thammasat for a few years, and then on to Wisconsin. How did Wisconsin's environment, a Southeast Asian Studies program, shape you as a scholar? Did it move you towards Thailand? Did it more, or look at it in different ways? Did it expand how you thought about it? Because you started also to being also more involved in Asian studies as well, which led, of course, to your role in the AAS.
I'm a kind of move along with my environment, with condition, like even where I did history. Of course, I try to make the best out of it, but let's say I don't have a kind of big plan. My big plan, I have to say a moment ago, and I still have that kind of in my idea. I want to disrupt before the age of disruption becomes a common word. I want to disrupt Thai historical ideology. That's all my politics. I want to do something that make people don't believe. And that later I kind of crystallize my idea, understand better too that the purpose, in my view, the purpose of history as a knowledge, the purpose of humanity is just try to make things that sacred, not sacred. Try to make things that sounds inviolable, irrational. Exposes irrationality, exposes funny side, exposes. Let's say make people not to believe it easily. That's why I go to map, because people thought it's natural, right? Then you can think about other things by yourself. But that's my idea. Anything sacred is not sacred. It's just it's underside. I love Wisconsin. The first time, I didn't think about going. My horizon of my Thai, most Thai scholars at the time is finish PhD, going back home, teaching there, done. So they gave me opportunity. I present my work. In fact, what you asked me from the beginning, oh, are you activist? In Thailand, they should know the other side. Because they look at me as activists all the time, instead of look at me as scholars. Yeah, a lot of details I can tell you if you're interested, but maybe you don't. I was treated as scholars even up to now. My people in my generation still treat me or look me first as an activist rather as scholars, suspicious of me, of my idea before knowing what I did, that kind of thing. In Wisconsin, it's the opposite. I have to tell them my background because I don't want to keep it a secret. They say, oh, they move on talking about maps. They don't care about my politics. They know it. They do care. But not caring in the sense of, no, they didn't recruit me of the... Have you heard of the name John Vansina, who wrote about oral history? Africanist. I remember he's the chair of the recruiting committee. I was... all the things we talk, it doesn't mean he's non-political. No, he knows that. But he talks to me about map. He talks to me about post-structuralism. He talks to me about history and concept. After know my background, he still doesn't care much. He still talk. I love that. In a way, I don't mean that I deny or I hate my activist background. No. But by that time, I developed the other side. I didn't tell people, many people. I almost quit Thammasat already. Because Thammasat and most people in Thailand treat me as activist. They didn't give me a chance to present my work. Yes, I can present my work, but they're not interested. After presenting my work, some question come back. What is your scholarship can serve the future of Thailand? Which I don't care. It's supposed to be useless while you ask this question. So I can't find I don't have fun. I don't have fun with scholarship. I don't deny activist political aspect. But It's not the only way. So I almost quit at Thammasat after 2 years. I look for job already. Since people treat me as activist, I want to be activist. Then it's easy. Wisconsin gave me opportunity. People in Central Southeast Asian Studies at Wisconsin gave me opportunity. And I have to say that 30 years after that, I still, even I was in Japan 3 years before now, and just back to Madison, finished work in Japan. I went back to Madison only 2 months. I know what I miss. It's so fun listening to talk that is useless, talk that enjoy the brain cells, talk that I have fun. I have fun thinking. I have fun in the serious ways, and that I told my people that I was lucky. I'm the kind of people that, no, I'm not that smart. I have, if you know people like Siam, my friend, my good friend, he's a real smart, real genius. I need to be in good condition. Wisconsin provides me good condition to grow. If I were in Thailand, I would be a deadwood. I would have stopped my academic, my intellectual life, because I'm not that good, that yearn for something, go for something. Only condition, I don't mean in Wisconsin alone, maybe other places, but let's say in my case, just I was lucky to be in the right condition. It's stimulating. Again, they know my politics, but they don't care. They don't care. They never ask me to do anything politically. They ask me, since they know that they're not going to recruit another Southeast Asianist, put it that way, in Wisconsin. They put me in the search committee almost every year. And I enjoy that. I love it. I love it. Reading dissertation, reading books by other people, and comments. And they found that, it turned out they found that they like my comments, they like my service that way, and I enjoy it. So nighttime is my time to read newspapers in Thailand. Some spare time is my time to write articles from time to time. But I believe that I spend 100% time for my service as a faculty there, and it's mutual, because I love that. I love that life.
Did your time at Wisconsin have an effect on the new book that will be coming out in March?
This is infomercial. If you read beginning section, the making of this book, you know that. In the mid-90s, there is the wave of memory studies, right? Mid-90s, because of World War II, 50th anniversary of World War II, of Holocaust. That's the time that I follow the stream. I learn what they do, and I think about my experience. That influenced me to start thinking about the massacre as a memory project. I start from there. It's in the book that what I did in the 90s, that I thought that I would stop there, because my interest at the time is something else. For October 6th, my interest is not academic, put it that way. It's not academic, it's more my personal political mission. But that environment helped me think a lot about it. Even after finish one article, then I was encouraged to think about as a bigger project, as a book. It takes me time, too long, but let's say for me it's okay. It just part of it is part of my development too, not just how many years as a project, as for publication, is part of me. When by now memory studies die down, not many people care anymore, but it's fine. The influence is that environment, interest in memory studies, listen to a lot of talk, read a lot of books in memory studies, and form my own ideas.
And finally, what has led you to your, or could you tell us something about your most recent research involving the law? How have you turned, in a sense, to the law?
In fact, Siam Mapped can go different ways. I go certain ways that people may not go, but that's my choice. Like 10 days ago, people work on, they say Siam Mapped inspired them to work on art, which surprised me. I have no idea what art is. So I'm interested in that. That way they take it as a kind of, they think further as an art, which I still don't understand how they can do it. But let's say I joined the project partly because I want to know how they did it. And by now I'm still not quite understand. My colleagues at Wisconsin treat the book because map and geobody brought them to blah, 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 blah. I understand to some extent, but not always. Among the first books that take Siam Mapped seriously is Raymond Crabb on Mexico. He's teaching at Cornell right now in Latin American. When he talked to me, when he said manuscript to me, I have to say that I don't understand how he applied it. He applied it his own way. People in Thailand take it differently. For me, first and foremost, Siam Mapped is alternative Thai historical narrative. In fact, I didn't answer the previous question. If you read carefully, I can brag, yes, because many parts of it I was not conscious. Many parts I was conscious. I hide a lot in that book. I hide a lot of implications. You can read the book. This is what I learned from Annal School. You can read the book in different ways. Of course, many books can read in different ways, but in this case, intentionally. You read a history of map, then you find history of map. You read the whole thing as an allegory. You find another story. Yes, it's my intention. I think about it, the whole thing as an allegory. Then what I have in the real story is me. Don't worry, you find your story, because my friend used to try, and he found one story. He told me what the story he found is. I told him it's different from mine. So you can read your own ways. The overarching things, one way of it, those are the ways I didn't go. Those are the ways that other people read. The way I go is simple, conventional history of transformation to modernity. That's why people try to urge me to move on, to carry it on the map. I didn't go. A kind of resistance, not because I don't think those are important, not because of that. It's just because I have in my mind, I want to go different directions. I want to look at other aspects of modernity. Over the time after map, by the way, because map is easier. If I study transformation, historical consciousness, it's too much. My dissertation, my thesis, in fact, have chapter 8. Not different, whole chapter 8, which my advisor, Craig, told me, drop it out. Because it makes the thesis incoherent. And think about it further. Yes, over time, I wrote 3 or 4 articles, including the articles about Gosoro Gulab to Mauricio here, that I thought about it since I did dissertation that is part of the project on transformation of historical knowledge. I wrote 3 or 4 articles, but I didn't finish a monograph. I have my overall project, transformation to modernity, what I mean, what are the basic components, 5, 6, 7. I have 6 components. Geography, the easiest one done. The more difficult history, 3 or 4 articles done. I have in my idea 3 or 4 articles because different aspects of history. I have my idea the transformation of the religious, it's all intellectual history, by the way. It's all intellectual history, but different aspect. One is about religion, like when Buddhism stopped being the religion to become a religion, right? Partly because you have to have comparative sense of religion. I finished that article, but the 2 or 3 articles that I didn't finish is that I haven't even started. The way Buddhism is understood in Thailand in modern time, we have to understand is otherness, superstition. What is superstition is defined by what is Buddhism and vice versa. And if you know Weber, you know Durkheim, religion and secularism is almost like a binary opposition. I think most in Asia there is no such a binary opposition. No. At least in Thailand, you have to figure out the relationship between tripartite, Buddhism, superstition, and science. You have to figure out what are their relationship. That's another project. Law is another project. Law is another project because I believe that based on Buddhism, Thai concept of society, also normal society, is an organic society. I think many of us may think about Singapore that way too. It's organic society, which is different components have to work in harmony, right? That's the way Thai. That's why in Thailand that harmony is translated into hierarchy, into certain places where people belong. We have to know in Thai ที่ต่ำที่สูง the high, the low place. In the end, not just the high and low, know the place, know your function. Then I have 2 projects based on, try to explain the Thai concept, Thai understanding of organic society in Buddhist way. One is a common word in Thailand. Maybe I'm not sure how to translate to English. The Thai is หน้าที่. You talk about หน้าที่ all the time. หน้าที่ is function or duty. You have to know your duty. If you don't talk about right, you talk about your function, your หน้าที่. It means your place with first certain function in that place. That sense is not just Thai, it's Sanskrit. It's Sanskrit. It's Dhammasatra. Dhammasatra in Hindu, in Buddhist, more than 50% talk about where is your place. Where is your place? Law, treatise of law in Hindu Buddhist tradition is law means social order, right? But social order in Hindu Buddhist society is the same as religious order. It's not separate, it's the same. Thailand become, I don't know, I don't want even to use the word secular, but I don't have other words, use it. Once it becomes secular, even though it's not real secularism, that sense separation, or let's say a change into laws, which means law is not in Thailand, in fact, it's not really secular, but at the same time, it's no longer religious as Dhammasatra. In a way, it's about social relations. When I talk about social relation, organic society, I have to study 2 parts. One part is the importance of หน้าที่ or function or duty in Thai concept, which has to explain in the context of organic society. On the other hand, I think, and up to now, I think it's still correct, but I'm not sure. I don't see the big picture yet. I only study certain part about legal history, finished. The publisher just told me 200 pages in Thai, but not even hit to my target point. The target point is that what is law? Law is social relations, codify social relations, right? What is law? Codify relationship between the state and people, right? If you're public law, state, people. If you're civil law, people among themselves. Law is, in simplest term, too simplistic, but let's say it's a codified relationship, social relationship. No, I'm not going to read every article of the law to translate into the social relations, but let's say something, some aspect of it, of legal history, should be the way to understand how organic society is in the Thai case.
We look forward to reading what you come up with Lal. I'd like to extend the conversation to the audience.